actually fun, but you have to do.
Good, yeah. J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye is a highly relevant work of literature for study by adolescents today. Although much of the novel is somewhat dated, the themes that are presented in Catcher, such as growing up and trying to fit in, transcend time. Additionally, through language conventions and thought processes, Salinger captures an accurate and timeless portrayal of teenage voice, further enhancing the relatability and, in turn, the relevance of Catcher in the Rye as a text for study by adolescents. It is through the first-person narrative voice that Holden becomes so believable. Holden's acknowledgement of his flaws is especially vital in presenting a relatable voice. If Holden presented his life as perfect, we would look at it and think, well, no one's life is like that, and we would not believe a single word he says. We would not be able to relate, but because of the narrative voice so akin to that of teenagers, we are able to see and appreciate more of who Holden is. The scenes are believable, and therefore the themes of growing up and the struggle to fit in that Salinger explores are communicated effectively and become relatable. We are able to understand Holden and appreciate his struggle. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye is Bildungsroman, a novel about growing up. Therefore, it seems fitting that its main theme is growing up. Everyone undergoes a change at some point in their life. As adolescents, change, or growing up, is an issue we are confronted with every single day. In fact, it is expected of us. A study was conducted by McAfee Security investigating teenage pressure to grow up. Stanley Holditch, an online family safety advocate at McAfee, believes teens today increasingly face pressure to live up to peer expectations and are basically growing up faster than the normal standards. The study shows that in order to fit these expectations, teenagers are engaging in an increasing amount of sexual activity, drinking, and changing their appearance to make them look older. Holden also partakes in these activities. Well, at least he tries to. Holden holds back when meeting a prostitute, is rejected when trying to order an alcoholic drink, and never mistaken for anything older than he is. Salinger uses Holden's experiences here as symbolism to represent his struggle to grow up, both inflicted by himself and others around him who failed to take him seriously. Personally, I can remember numerous times when I have tried to act older than I am. I can remember not being taken seriously by adults in a time when all I needed was validation. I can remember struggling to grow up. Can't you? No, that's wrong. In fact, I am still facing this struggle, and I can relate to Holden's experiences here. Can't you? In a conversation with his sister, Phoebe, Holden implicitly expresses his desire to prevent the process of growing up. Salinger uses the metaphor of Catcher in the Rye to highlight the natural anxiety that comes with transitioning from childhood to adulthood. Holden wishes to be the catcher in the rye, catching children before they fall off the cliff into the dark realm that is adulthood. The metaphor demonstrates Holden's perception of adulthood being something he does not want, which really is fair enough. The prospect of adulthood is scary. I'm sure we can all remember our parents assuring us that school days are the best days of our life. This is because when we leave, we are faced with responsibility. Holden understands that this change is inevitable, yet the only responsibility he wants is to stop other children from having to face responsibility. His sense of responsibility for the children reveals his frustration with society and what society offers, and that society has these expectations on the individual that he can't conform to and that he doesn't want to conform to. Salinger's metaphor highlights the tension between the individual and society as a part of Holden's struggle and the challenge of growing up. It is important that Holden's experiences here are recognised. Growing up is hard. Holden shows us that this is okay, that this is something other teenagers go through, that we are not alone in our struggle. Like us, Holden is simply a teenager trying to fit in. However, through the novel we see that Holden struggles with this. Salinger creates the setting of the novel, that is, New York and Pensy Prep, and Holden's inability to fit into these places, to communicate the teenage struggle of fitting in. In New York, we see Holden constantly moving from bar to hotel, theatre to bar, and so on. He's never satisfied with any of the places he visits. Salinger uses this as an explicit example of Holden's inability to fit in. He doesn't belong anywhere. Other teenagers go through this transient phase. A quick Google search of teenage struggle to fit in provides a myriad of circumstances in which the modern teen feels estranged. The sites range from self-help to investigative articles and depict scenarios such as peer pressure, chilling with the wrong crowd, and my son is struggling with his school network, that I'm certain we have all encountered. The importance of Holden acknowledging these problems here is indisputable. We are able to relate to him and empathise. Holden's yearning for a place to belong is further demonstrated through his persistent curiosity of the ducks' whereabouts in the winter. This recurs throughout the novel. One such example is Holden's conversation with the cab driver, where he asks, "Where do the ducks go in the winter?" The driver replies, "What are you trying to do, bud? Kid me?" Salinger has once again used metaphor and symbolism to enhance Holden's image of loneliness and his feeling of isolation. The ducks, after undergoing a period of growth during springtime, migrate somewhere else during the winter. Holden's curiosity as to their whereabouts represent his own curiosity in regards to where he will belong once he reaches adulthood. His persistence with asking the question indicates his yearning to belong somewhere. However, the fact that no one can answer his duck question indicates his isolation, in the sense that no one understands him, he has no real place to go, and that he is alone in the world. Salinger recurrently presents this metaphor throughout the novel, highlighting the significance of the theme of fitting in. Holden's benign curiosity represents that of all teenagers' curiosity for the world and where they fit in the grand scheme of things. In an article investigating teenagers and the struggle for identity, Seth Mullins, a familial educator, believes that "who am I?" is a question often repeated by teenagers. So, who are you? Can any of you answer this question? How many of you have struggled with your own identity? Well, we know that Holden struggles, and it is this struggle that creates such resonance in teenagers today. We can relate, and through Holden we find comfort in the fact that we're not always thrust into a perfect world. So what do you think? Is Catcher in the Rye relevant? Well, that depends on whether you think the themes of growing up and fitting in are at all relevant to modern adolescent society, which of course they are and probably always will be. Salinger's presentation of these timeless issues, particularly through the relatable language he uses, mean that it's a given that this novel is still studied today. Therefore, J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye is relevant for study by adolescents.